We are a couple minutes now past 2:30, so it looks like some people are still coming in. But we will try to start things off. We've got our 45 minutes, and so we want to make sure that we have enough time to kind of go through everything and answer questions. My name is Evan Falat. I am the Director of Business Development for the EAMC Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I'm really excited to hear from Christina on this panel, and thank you all for joining us. We really want to make this just as open as possible for discussion. We know that obviously the world of premium seating was turned upside down, just like everything else happens in the industry this past year. So, we've got some different sections we'll be going over, and really just if you have a comment or question that you want to include, put that in the chat. We'll monitor that, and after each session, we will try to answer those as best as possible and have that open dialogue.
Hi, everyone. I'm not sure if everyone hears that loud sound in the background. Does anyone hear that sound? Yes, I do have.
Yeah.
Evan, is that you? If you can just mute yourself, I think I muted everyone, but
all year round.
Please mute yourself.
So I feel like ample
sound. Okay, that sounds much better. Hi, everyone. Okay, my name is Christina DePippo. I am our Senior Director of Premium Events for Staples Center, Microsoft Theater, and LA Live. So in my role, I oversee all of our individual suite rentals across the Los Angeles Lakers, Los Angeles Kings, Los Angeles Clippers, as well as all of our concert special events. And in addition, I handle all of our group VIP and individual ticket inventory for family shows, award shows, and special events across all three of our venues. So in my business, we also oversee all of the premium inventory for Staples Center. So our premium seats, tables and lounges, and luxury boxes. So we will be touching a bit on all of those, as well as our event suites. And, the purpose of today's breakout is to discuss, how our relationship with premium ticket members has changed over the last year. So how we're reconnecting with them, how we're getting back to some sort of normalcy. So to do that, Evan and I decided it would probably make the most sense to take you through the journey. So how it started, how it's going, and looking into the future. So we do want to make this as interactive as possible. So please feel free to add any questions in the chat. Sean Holmes here will be helping us kind of catch those questions in between each section. And we'd love to hear from each and every one of you. So from how it started. So once the pandemic started, how did we handle our clients? Obviously, I think I speak for everyone on this call when I say we were in very uncharted territories back in March of last year when we had a hard shutdown, and something as significant as a global pandemic hit, causing us to pivot and readjust basically everything we've ever done. From an event suite side, I'll touch on that real quick. How we handled that was we stopped March 13th of last year at Staples Center. So we still had an extensive season ahead of us. We still had many concerts ahead of us. And we didn't know at that moment when anything was going to resume again. So what we decided was we would reach out to all of our clients with money on file and say, if you stay with us through this, so back then it was the 1920 season, you stay with us through the 2021 season, we'll grant you 10% bonus credit on the money that you're committing to roll over. So for our event suite holders, that was a great deal for them. They were already going to spend that money. They're getting extra money on top of it. And once we were safe to reopen and operate again, we would be granting them this 10% bonus. That was an easier world to navigate. I know I have a few of my colleagues on this call, Michelle Kajawara, Brittany Smith, Manny Jacobo, who oversee the premium realm as well. And we're in the weeds with our premium sales and services side much more than I was. But from a premium seats and luxury suite side, these are contractually obligated commitments in our venue. And when we had our hard stop on March 13th, we didn't meet the number of events we needed to contractually meet in our contract for our premier seat holders or our luxury box holders to meet the needs of what we had promised. So, initially off the bat, when we're already going through a scramble, that's a very difficult conversation to have with clients as we're navigating something we've never done. And clients, of course, are wanting to know, well, what are you going to do for me? What are you going to do for me? So there was a series of different processes that we went through over the last year. Of course, each of our contracts offers an abatement, so a certain percentage back that each client was given based on the number of Kings, Lakers, Clippers, or other events that didn't happen. We also offered a bonus credit to our premier seat holders of $500 per seat or $1,000 per seat based on their contract commitment as a make good for them. We offered contract updates where we added new language in that would make them feel a little safer and secure as we move forward in a pandemic, not knowing what was going to happen in the 2021 year. Now moving forward into the 21-22 year. We offered the option for all of our clients to freeze and resume their contracts. So basically everyone's contract became frozen and they would add a year on to the back end of their contract. And by doing so, they were offered, better pricing, better incentives, and gifting touch points. We are all about the gifting touch points. We were lucky enough to see the Lakers win an NBA championship last year, which allowed us to send NBA swag, merchandise for the Lakers winning to every single one of our Premier Seat members post-win. Our higher clients getting a LeBron Finals jersey in that package. And as we've continued to navigate and we're off the NBA championship, most recently we sent wellness packages to our top members saying, thanks for sticking with us. We hope you're doing well, and included different gifts pertaining to physical, emotional, mental health, wellness. And that was our touch points of how it started. So now I'm going to, if there's any questions before we go into how's it going now, that was how it started. Please feel free to write those in the chat, or else I'll pass it over to Evan, who will kind of break into the how's it going part now that we're more in the waters. Great. All you, Evan.
Okay, so, as Christina mentioned, we all have been just trying to figure out, everything was so fluid, trying to figure out the best kind of strategy. And, if from the touch point side, as we all know, from the premium seating, that is so critical. And so whether you did it during the pandemic, 9 months ago, or whether you did 3 years ago, or whether you're doing it now, I think that's kind of one of the big things that, we really talked about was, hey, there's no better time than the present. And so if you didn't do anything 6 months ago, now it's like, hey, that's okay. Let's shift gears, and live events are coming back. And so let's get ahead of it, because the last thing that we want to do is get to a point where our clients are consistently asking us, hey, all these events are getting announced. I'm hearing things, whether, this state's opening up, or this state's opening up, or our local, municipality is doing this. And so I think, that's where, there's no better time than the present to really re-engage with your folks. And so as we were looking at, how's it going and return to live events, one of the biggest things is then having that reconnection. And so one of the things that we did in Tulsa is back at the end of April, we actually were able to host a live watch party for the Oscars and tied some things in with the local film industry here in Tulsa, as we had one of the Best Picture nominations was shot here in Tulsa. So there's a lot of momentum around that, and we invited clients, premium seat holders, sponsors to this event, and it was really the first time that many of them had even honestly been to any type of formal function. It was actually quite entertaining because people were so excited for the first time to take off the sweats and dress up. They were all excited about having the opportunity to do a black tie event, and so that was something that for us kind of helped. That was back in April. Again, just seeing those people's faces, being able to engage with them. And then as we move forward now, looking at the next steps, and as we, for us, our events will start, back with concerts and, live events, end of July, beginning of August. And so one of the big things that we have for our suite holders is doing a tasting and working with our executive chef and putting together an event where, the suite holders, whether it's our contract administrators, whether it's our decision makers, they can come and again, just refamiliarize themselves with the fact that it's been 15 months. And so whether that's, new food options that we have, whether it's just, again, letting them see these are options that we've always had, but also too, just seeing our staff, seeing some of the new health and safety measures that we'll be doing from a food and beverage side. I think, again, we'll talk more about that too, but it's letting people know that, we're listening, we're taking guidelines into effect, and that we're not just, ripping off the Band-Aid and saying, hey, come at it, we want you back, and not do anything, with that. So, I think those type of events, they can be big, they can be small, anything that we can do to help kind of generate those touch points. And that kind of then brings me to, the next thing that Christina and I were talking about is, really what we've seen in Tulsa, and I'd be curious to see, if other people have seen this as well. But obviously, it's a long time that a lot of things have happened with our clients. People have retired, people have changed jobs. In unfortunate circumstances, some people have been laid off, or maybe our contact has, been promoted or changed positions. And so, again, we need to make sure that our staff is working with the right people. Essentially, it's treating it as, we're opening a brand new building, and for these suites or these club seats or these loge boxes, just doing the investigating, reaching out, and whether, finding out, are we working with the right people? And if we're not, who is that new person? And then getting those touch points and really investigating it and doing like we normally would, just to get to know who our new clients are. Again, it's just making sure that these people and our clients are comfortable with, with how things are going to be, because there's going to be a lot of questions. And then kind of with that too, there's a lot of new building processes. I don't know, what your maybe local health department's requiring or your government agencies, but I know that we've got some different protocols in place that we're doing. And while everybody may have their own opinions about that, there still are procedures that we'll be implementing. And the last thing we want to do is catch anybody off guard. If someone's coming to their first event they've been to in a year and a half, we don't want them to come, show up, be surprised about a policy that we have in place, and then have to either one, go back to their car to bring something back, or two, just leave and be upset. So that's something that we'll be working with our team on to really just identify some of the new improvements that we've done from the health and safety measures, whether it's UV lighting, new air filtration systems, things like that, because again, people want to see what we're doing, and so that's important for us to be able to share with them. But also too, answering the questions that our clients might have. Everyone is kind of across the board with this, but I guarantee you that people will have questions, and so we just want to make sure that our staff have the answers to go with that. And again, that just helps you identify as well if you have a certain suite holder that is more concerned. Then as the events start, and that's a good touch point that your staff can be aware of to make sure that they are paying proper attention to this client's needs that they might have. So those are some of the things from just kind of returning to live events, making sure that one, your staff's prepared, but also your clients are prepared too, for all these new changes that might be since the last time they've been at an event.
Yeah, and sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, you continue.
But I was just going to turn it over to you, because I know you were telling me, Christina, about some of the different Staples Center Safe program that you guys implemented.
Yeah, so with our reopening, we reopened our doors on April 15th at 25% capacity across Lakers, Clippers, and Kings. So it happened very fast and furiously, but obviously something we were planning for the last year. On the point of touch points, that was something that we made sure our reps were engaging with multiple touch points to all of our top members and clients throughout the last year. So when April 15th rolled around, we weren't calling people out of the blue saying, now do you want to come back, after we haven't talked to you or wondered how you were doing for the past 12 months. So we had a very strategic touch point plan in place. Part of those touch points being our gifting strategy that I recently mentioned. But in Staples Center, it was a very phased, methodical reopening. We weren't back to 100% all at once. We had very strict guidelines as it came to catering, even bags in the building. And we have slowly started to adjust those things and open up more and more as we've progressed into our playoff run. So our Staples Center marketing team and guest services team launched our Staples Center Safe program, which we launched right before our doors opened on April 15th, basically outlining what we have done at Staples Center to make you feel safe again as a guest. And within those guidelines came the updated hand sanitizer stations within the venues, on our suite levels, on our main concourse. Now that we're 100% cashless, so you can only bring a card, and if you bring a card, if you bring cash, we'll convert it into a card for you. We changed our bag policy where you can only bring in a small clutch purse rather than a backpack or anything larger. So we've taken on all of these initiatives. No catering off the bat in suites. If you wanted to eat at a game, you had to be in a designated area that you could eat in. Over the past month and a half, it feels like it's been a year, we've been adjusting those processes. So now we are offering catering in designated areas of our suite. And come June 15th, we'll be back to 100% capacity, where we're still implementing masks, and folks must wear a mask every time they're in our building. But it's been a very phased process, and what we've made sure within our premium team is where our staff and when our staff can be on site, making sure we are establishing those touch points with our clients. We understand that this has been a very difficult year. There have been a lot of moving pieces, a lot of moving parts, and a lot of, again, uncharted waters. So where we can meet our clients and where it's socially distanced, acceptable, treating them to a drink in our Lexus Club or buying them a meal in our San Manuel Club have been very key touch points that we've been making sure we've been stressing with all of our reps to go to the event, meet your prospect, meet your client. Again, as long as they're comfortable, you're comfortable, to kind of reestablish and reset ourselves as we enter back into the 21-22 year and get back to hopefully what will be completely normal, or whatever the new normal is again. So that's currently where we are. We have one team left in the playoffs, the Clippers. So we are, our first two home games are still at the 25% capacity, and our potential game 3 will jump to 100%. So we're seeing those changes happen in real time, and kind of adjusting with our clients, which kind of gives that human aspect to it. And now we're continuing to get to that place so we can look into the future and dive into the 21-22 year, and not put this behind us, but put it behind us and move forward, and start getting money back on the books, and maximize where we can. So before we move into looking into the future, would love to hear from anyone on any feedback on what they've done, how it's going with their venue, within their premium ticketing world. If anyone wants to share. Don't all jump at once. I'm just kidding. That's okay. That's okay. If you guys just want to listen, that's great too. All right. Well, if you have questions, put them in the chat. Looking into the future. So where are we going now? What are we doing? What are we doing for 21-22? How are we best equipping our team members, our premium members to be ready for the 21-22 season? I think I speak for everyone that's on my team, that's on this call, when I say we would be remiss if we didn't realize how difficult of a year this has been across the board for everyone, our clients, our staff, etc. So we are very cognizant of that, and that is something as we are planning our budgeting for next year, we are taking into account that our client entertainment budgets probably need to be a little bit higher as we enter the new year. Our client gifting budgets probably need to be a little bit higher, as we do understand that people were shifted in a lot of directions last year, especially in a building like ours, where we have as many events and 3 teams, where we do have some make goods, and we want to make sure we do right by our members and our highest spending clients. So in our future, we're really looking into our client entertainment and getting back to in-person events and entertaining our clients with in-person events as soon as possible. So we host an annual golf tournament we're looking to get back in the books. We do a Taste of Staples Center where we showcase all of our suites, premier seats, all of the new menu items that Levy, our caterer, will be showcasing in that next year. We have not a virtual anymore. We have an in-person Lexus food and wine events that we procure every October, where we'll spend money bringing clients out to wine and dine them. And really anything and everything in between, looking at Stagecoach, Coachella, Jazz Fest, any of our events within our AEG family where we can potentially bring our clients to and allow them to experience this on us as a thank you for standing by us and being loyal members and customers. So here at Staples Center, that's how we are, kind of moving into the next phases of this and planning accordingly, knowing, we'll have to probably spend a little bit more, but that's okay because these people stood by us through this tumultuous year. Evan, why don't you hit on, I know we talked about on your side, you guys haven't opened your doors just yet, but what you're doing right now as you're looking into the future and getting going again.
No, yeah, definitely. I think, a lot of it is having that flexibility mindset. We've seen in the last year how everything's so fluid, and how things just unfortunately changed just on a moment's notice, whether negative at the beginning, but then positive if things have improved. And so I think it's important for us to continue to have that mindset as we're working with our clients, to understand that either what worked for them in the past may need to look a little bit different, or that no client's in the same situation as the other one. And so, our mindset is we definitely want to, we'd rather retain our current customers and keep their business, and rather than having to search for new clients. And not that, we're not going to have to do that, but anytime we can retain anybody, it's definitely going to make that a lot easier of a process. And so again, if that means that, somebody needs a little bit, and, previously it was a 5-year term and we need to knock that down to a 3-year term, we're really going to look at that, because again, in this kind of new era that we're facing, we understand that every client is just going to have some different circumstances. So that's important to us. I think the other thing too is, again, as I mentioned before, just really making sure that our clients are comfortable with what's going on, especially if we have new contacts with our different businesses and companies. One of the things that we've done before is as we've done things with our ticketing software system, we've invited people to come out in person to actually do a live demo, do a Q&A, and we've just found that just, one, it allows us to, touch multiple, people at one time with our team, rather than just having to do individual phone calls, which is fine, but it takes up a lot more one-on-one time. But also too, that's something that, again, allows our customers to come to the arena, see it. We want them to have the chance to, even just walk back into their suite, figure out, are there elements in their suite they maybe want to refresh or update. They might have old pictures, graphics that, in the past we didn't really think about, but, for a lot of these people, they might not have, it's been, a year and a half since they've been in there. So things have changed. They might want to update some things, provide different amenities for their customers that are coming. So that's, again, just both for new clients that we have, but also our clients that are returning, our points of contact. We want to make sure that they are completely comfortable with the whole ticketing process. And that's something else to be thinking about. I know Christina mentioned about, bag policies changing and going cashless, a lot of things that, many of our arenas are doing. Something else on the premium side that really is affecting many of us. If you hadn't already prior to COVID, there's a good chance now that your ticketing is really shifting to a mobile-only platform. And, for a lot of clients, that's a big change. And that's something that, there's going to be some clients that are going to need a lot more hand-holding than others. And so, again, that's where, we see this as an opportunity to, kind of help quiet some of those fears that they have, maybe take their hand initially at the beginning and really help walk them through it, give our reps a chance to, have that touch point time and get to know our customers a little bit better, but also, provide that training. Again, the last thing we want is for our customers and then their customers to have bad experience, their first few events back, and have issues with doing the mobile ticketing or, getting into the building. So, those are some of the things that from a future, perspective, that's what we're looking at. But I think too, we're just excited. I think that's the, what we're hearing from everybody every time we, announce another show that's coming. Everyone's just so excited. The momentum's picking up. And so with that, again, as Christina and I mentioned at the beginning, now is the time. Now is really the time to really be engaging and mobilizing your team to making sure that that your clients, that your customers are in the best place possible. So I know, looks like we have one question that popped up right now. I know we've got some time here before we finish for some other questions. So Christina, you want to look at that first question there?
Yeah. Hi, Brendan. Thanks for your question. You mentioned you are coming back strong with as much in-person interaction as possible. Are brands, companies, teams also looking to create a hybrid approach with other personalization via video or email, etc.? That's a great question, and that's something that I'm actually working very closely with our partner Lexus on right now. So every year we host what is called the Lexus All-Star Chef Classic. It's a food and wine event that we procure and put on at LA Live. So within our own campus, we build out a restaurant stadium type of concept where it's a 5-course meal paired with wine. And last year, for the first time in the event's history, we actually went virtual with it and brought the event to people's homes. This year, with there being still some hesitation around, live food and wine events and the number of people and this and that, we are working very closely with Lexus on a hybrid part of this event where we would sell it in person, and then we would also sell an element for people that may not feel comfortable yet returning back and being in a large crowd getting food and beverage. So we've talked with Lexus quite a bit on this. We've also worked with Nike. We host a 3-on-3 basketball tournament every year and implementing some sort of virtual component or hybrid component to that, since people may not be ready to be playing up against each other in a basketball setting just yet. So it is something that's constantly on our radar, and we are working with our sponsors on. In addition, we also work with our teams, the Lakers, Clippers, and Kings, on different types of hybrid events where we can involve our members and, have a talk with Genie Bus or have a talk with Luke Robitaille. So those are all things on our horizon that we're also planning for the folks that may not be as inclined and ready to come back as quickly as others. So that's a great question.
I think too with that, this is really a page from probably most people's marketing departments, but one of the things that we're seeing other facilities doing, which we'll be doing as well, is really utilizing video to, again, showcase what you've done. If you've done any new enhancements, if you were able to do any upgrades to the facility, both from an amenities standpoint, but also, again, from a health and safety standpoint, or also too, just highlighting your suite level and doing something just for your premium people. So I think, again, that's something that we're really seeing, that people are a lot more receptive. It doesn't just have to be something that marketing puts out on social media, but you can create something that can be dedicated to your premium clientele that, again, just re-engages them and lets them know that you're ready and you're excited for them to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any other questions or anything that we touched on in any of the three sections, how it started, how it's going, looking into the future, that specifically we can elaborate on or further explain?
Or in that realm too, I know we have quite a few people in the room. What are people? What's kind of the feedback that people are hearing from, their clients? Are you mostly hearing that people are ready and excited to be back? Or is there still hesitation? I'm curious to kind of see what people are hearing from their premium seat holders.
I know a lot of my keep on. If anyone wants to further touch too, feel free. I know I didn't touch on everything.
Let's see. Manuel, thanks for your question. Manuel says, do you think premium will be in higher demand when we return, specifically suites having a private space? So that's something we had some one-off events that we held really since October, and that's something that was obviously a big selling point for us in our private rental spaces. We had the Big 12 Wrestling Championship, so people coming in from honestly all over the country, and for them, they, people that normally wouldn't necessarily look at buying a suite, they would, alumni or booster club or even parents of the athletes would basically pool their resources, and they were like, hey, I'd much rather be with 16, 20 people that are in my traveling party, and we can have our own private space, then even though we still were, at a limited capacity and social distancing, fans in the seats, they felt more comfortable in the suites. So I do think that's something that our sales team that we're using as an advantage from the premium spaces, because of the fact that you're able to control, one, who's there, and it's a more private space. I also think too that you've got a lot of industries that have maybe not been a player before in the premium spaces, but because of the pandemic, things have changed and they're a lot more interested in doing these type of things, or they've had the monetary benefit from everything. So that's one of the things that want to challenge your sales team with is who are some of the new players that previously weren't a category that maybe you would reach out to, but now are very interested in having a suite either on a full-time long-term contract or on an event-by-event basis. That's some of the things we're seeing. What about you, Christina?
From a suite side, I think it's been mixed. I think we anticipated and thought, once we did open our doors, that suites would be the most desirable place to be. I speak from personal experience. That's where I would want to be, is in a private area enclosed with just people I know. But I think we're finding in California as a whole that people just want to get back to live events. People want to be back in the building. So we've been so gradual in this process here in this state specifically that I don't know what the answer to that will be next year. I think we've definitely garnished more interest along the for our luxury boxes, and people are now more interested to have that conversation for client entertainment and bringing people out, because that does offer a safer space for companies. So that's definitely a positive. But on the sorry for the phone ringing, on the terms of, is it a safer, or do people perceive it? I think it's about 50-50. And just for the sake of time, I do want to get into the next question. Any strategy changes in pricing, premium areas, programs? On behalf of Staples Center, from our end, we are very much not looking to gouge or increase. We're obviously just coming off of a Lakers championship. So obviously prices will fluctuate based on that and that demand. But our pricing is very consistent with where we ended our season before the pandemic started. So we didn't do any mass increases or, a dramatic raise, because, again, we're trying to welcome people back and slowly get them comfortable with events. So, we did not use this opportunity to gouge and, take advantage of it. We're saying you can now have a suite, but you have to pay $10,000. No, we were very strategic and modeled our pricing after our 1920 structure.
Yeah, I'd say we kind of, see things as the same, as really staying the same, and really just honestly seeing how things go here as we return, and the feedback we're getting. I know, Dan asked about forced modifications. Do you think will help the overall experience long term? I mean, I think it's one of those things that the biggest benefit is not really a modification, but I think people are just there ready to return. I think the other thing too, kind of going back to one of the things we talked about suites in general, I think you'll see the local arenas and sports teams and concerts really driving that entertainment business, like Christina was saying, because I think people will be more inclined to stay local than in the past. Maybe they did. Maybe they went to the Masters, or maybe they, went to, something out of state, to, NFL game 4 hours away and took clients there. I think people will be more inclined, especially this first year back, to really stay local. And so I think that will help, the local area.
Definitely. And I think in terms of new contracts, are you seeing people who are hesitant to enter into long-term agreements than they were previously? Again, we have changed certain contract language to help accommodate and put people at ease. So entering a contract with us is less scary, I feel like, because we took what we learned from this pandemic and we worked with our legal team on making some of those amendments in our longer term agreements. So we have closed quite a few deals over this time and generated quite a bit of new business. And I think that is partially due to kind of that added layer of flexibility and learning from this experience of what we needed to do moving forward to make people feel more comfortable. And I could hit on the last one too, food and beverage. How is food service, or how are people handling any changes to how food service is managed in premium areas? I think this is a great question, and one that I thought would have a lot more hesitancy than it does. People just want to eat and drink wherever they want. And every time we lift another guideline, they are so happy. We started with no food and beverage in the suites, and then we moved it to you could only eat or drink in the back of the suite, and people were so happy, and people are just itching to be able to eat and drink wherever they want in our venue at this time. So I thought there would be a lot more like hesitancy about it. People wouldn't want to be, in close proximity to others eating or drinking, but people, I think, I don't speak for California. I speak for what I've seen in California, but people just want to get back, it looks like. And I think it's less scary to them than we envisioned on the back end from a food and beverage side. Evan, you want to add anything to that on your end?
Yeah, I mean, we've had some some initiatives that we've done just to try to, just to try to be cautious, to be quite frank, at the beginning. And so for our suites, we, allowed food service, but it was, instead of the buffet setup, it was individually packaged meals. Our chef and his team did a great job of honestly creating a customized menu, which has been really interesting because we saw that some people actually preferred that to the full-on buffet. They didn't need to always feed 16 to 20 people. And so to give people the customization to just order, individuals and for 4 or for 8 people, or a couple different options. So, they had this for the kids and this for this person, that allowed them to customize a little bit more. So I think we actually will, we will go back to the, typical, buffet and, having the larger spread, but we're still going to keep some of those individual packaged items, because it's honestly been something that we've seen is in demand, and that, quite honestly, I don't know that we would have really explored if not for the pandemic. And so, again, going back to catering to what our clients are looking for, this is something that, even past COVID, I imagine that we will continue to a certain degree. So that's a great question. And I think, we'll continue to, improvise as needed in that regards for food and beverage.
Great.
I think we just have about a minute left. So I don't know if there's anything else really quick. If not, again, thank you all for joining us. And I know, I think both Christina and I, we have our LinkedIn, under our speaker profiles. If you would love to connect with you, and at least I don't want to speak for Christina, but I know I would. I'm sure she would too.
No, I would love to as well.
But if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Be happy to talk offline as well.
Absolutely. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it, and have a wonderful Wednesday.